Okay, good morning. So we're up to a new Siman Kuf Samach. We're now discussing Eizu Maim Kasherim ve'Eizu Psulim Netilas Yadayim. Which water is kosher and which is possible? What can we use for Netilas Yadayim? So, says the Mechaber Siv Aleph, Maim Shenishtanu Marehen. If water has changed its appearance, Bein machmas atzmon, either because they have sort of themselves, you sort of leave them in the ground or in a bowl for a long time and they just change their appearance. Bein machmas dova nofel seichen, or something fell into it and thereby caused a change in appearance. Bein machmas mekayman, or the place psulim. Then these liquids are possible for Netilas Yadayim. Says Mishnah Berurah Sivkot Na'alef, Shenishtanu Marehen, V'yalfinen Zeh Mimayim Shel Kir. The source of this is the Kir, because Shahai Lekiddush Yadayim B'mikdash, the Psulim B'Shinu Mare, that if the Maim and the Kir change its appearance, then it would not be good for washing the hands of the Kohanim. Machmas Atzmon, Kagoin, She'omad B'kli Zman Rav. It stood in a bowl for a long time. Achenasi Yorek, it turned green, Alidei Ha'avir Hacham, because of the hot air. He's quoting the Lashon of the Torah. The Rambam doesn't mention this machmas atzmon, and he mentions only if it changed its appearance because of something else. And therefore, the Achronim say that it's mutzah b'nishtanu machmas atzmon, that they take issue with this mechaber because it's based on the Torah, and they follow the Rambam, where machmas atzmon is actually okay. Okay, machmas dova shenofel, but if it changes its appearance because something fell into it, then the mechaber says it's possible. Kagoin diyoi, like ink or sham mine samonim utzvoim, or other sort of colors that change the appearance of the water. Even if it doesn't sort of dissolve fully into it, just by mere soaking it, it changes its appearance. Oshan or some other thing. The rak machmas atzman kashem. It's only if it's inherent that it's going to be kosher. But that which it changes because of offer of dirt, that's not considered a shinamara. Okay, because that's just the way of water, that it sometimes has dust and tit in it. And then sometimes when you leave it a little bit, it sort of settles the water. That we'll get to in Sif Test. Okay. Or the third thing, so if water changes color, either from it was just left a long time, or because something was added, or machmas mekaymon, then we say it's possible. Now, what does machmas mekaymon mean? So it says the Mishnah Berurah Sivkot Daled, bein shenishtanu kashayu oimdim bekarka, whether it was because it was standing in the ground, or bein achakach kashesho'avon bekli, or you drew the water from a well in some sort of bucket, in some sort of kli, v'nishtanu alidei kli, and it's because of the kli it changed its appearance. V'da, the mashen nifsolim hamayim b'shinu mare, kol dehu dafka ksheneto bekli al yodov. When we say that it's possible because of shinu mare, it's dafka ksheneto bekli al yodov, when you take it from a kli onto your hands. Aval, what's the contrast? Aval b'toiv el yodov ba'aboim soa, very interesting halacha. But if you're not doing Netilas Yadayim, but you're doing Tevilas Yadayim, you're dipping into a mikveh or into a river or something, eina poisel machmas shinu mare kol dehu. So you can have a sort of a river which has become sort of a different color for whatever reason, but that's okay, because if it's shinamar, and that it might not necessarily pass it. If the mikveh has a slightly different color, then that doesn't invalidate it in terms of mikveh and tefillah. Unless, of course, these are mishnayos and mikvahs that we're familiar with. You go to a shiva house or something, often they mention this. If something falls into the mikveh, like wine or something else, which colors it, but a mayan is not going to pass with shinamara at all. So just again, let me just finish off. If they restore back the original color, then they're okay. So in short, we've said in the first sif that what type of water is good. It's got to be colored, naturally colored water. But if the water has changed its appearance, either because inherently machmas atzmon, they've been sitting in this bowl or in this this hole in the ground for a long time, and they've changed their appearance, or something fell into them, or machmas makoman, for whatever that means. I'm not entirely sure what the difference between machmas makoman and machmas atzmon is, to be honest. But either way, there's a change of appearance, then it's no good. However, that's only true for Netilas purposes. When you take the water and put it in a kli, if you dunk your hands into a mikveh or into a river or something like that, even if there is a bit of discoloration, then that would be okay. All right, says the Mechaber Sif Beis. Also b'mayim melocha. If work was done with the water, for example, you wash up with this water, or whatever it may be. Oisheshara bohem pita, you dip your bread into it. Even if you didn't intend it, you intend to put it in one keli, it goes into a different keli. Psulim. That invalidates the water to use it for Netilas Yadayim. Ve'im tzinen yayin b'mayim. If you strain wine with water, you add more water into to strain it. Psulim. That also that water that was used for that purpose invalidates it. If you rinse kalim with water, again psulim, that invalidates that water. If the water, the kalim were already washed, and they just dip into the water, then kasherim, that would be okay. V'im hitpil bohem hadachtaim hagluskin. If the nachtaim, which means the baker, he takes the roll and he dunks in the water. Pirish kikaris lechem. He dunks the rolls into the water as part of his baking process. Psulim, again, that will invalidate the water. Avalim tavel yodav b'mayim v'toch pnei haglusin. If he just dips his hand into the water and then he wets the rolls, or he just splashes it a little bit. Hamayim hanisharim lo nase by melacha. That's not considered worked with the water. In other words, he hasn't taken the rolls and and submerged them into it. Rather, he's just put his hands in the water and just splashed a bit of water on it. The latter would be okay. Well, so long as the appearance of the water has not changed, that would be okay. And again, water that if he's just he's taken the dough and the sticky bits off his hands, then that would be the same halacha. Okay, so let's take a look at the Mishnah Berurah on Sif Beis, Sif Cotton Vav Melacha. So if you use water for some sort of melacha, then they're no longer good for Netilas Yadayim. When a person uses the water, Nasu k'sheifchin, they become like poured out waters. Ha'imdim l'shvicha upsilim netila, and therefore they're no good for Netilas Yadayim. Sheshar bohem, says the Mishnah Berurah, d'choshev zeh melacha. If you dunk something into it, then that becomes that you've worked with this water. The nasu hamayim sheifchin, and the mayim has a din of sheifchin, and therefore you can't use it for Netilas Yadayim. Va'afilim shar bohen acher she'ena bal hamayim, even though somebody else uses it and he's not the owner of the water, that will still passel it. It doesn't make a difference if he did it or other people did it. Now, there's an interesting problem here, because normally when we say with Hegdish, a person can't asa something which doesn't belong to him. So how come over here you've got a bucket of water, I start using that water, I can asa it because I've dunked something in it? Why is it different? So yeah, we'll see. Look at number 10. So he deals with this. This is in footnote 10. He brings a raya, first of all, that if other people use your water, that it's going to be a problem. He says, if an animal drinks from the water, we're going to come to it soon, Mr. Hashem, that if an animal drinks from the water, that will passel it. And certainly, therefore, if another person does melacha to it, it will passel it. Now, here comes the point. Next paragraph. Cholov l'kederes chaveiroi sheneseres bekach kimin she'issa ein atolib machshava ela b'maisa. If I take milk and pour it into your chulent, it's awesome. Yeah, that's with machshava purposes. I can't think that your animal's hegdish or something like that. But Maisa, when you actually physically change your thing, either by putting milk into your chulent or by working with your water, that will actually passel it. That's the chiluk. Yeah, okay.
Talking about kerach, what happens if you have...
Oh, we get there, we'll get there. Yeah. Mr. Hashem, probably not today, but we'll get there.
He talks about it in 7. Sorry, 7.
In footnote 7?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's all the halachas of mikvah. Yeah. Okay, it's an unusual case. You're going to have that kerach and it's liquid.
If you have kerach, can you use the water if it was kerach and it melts? Can you use that water for Netilas?
Okay. So if you look at 7,
it says you can. No,
yeah, v'imosa melacha bekerach v'achach naman kerach v'nasa mayim mitzad hagonim. There's the stipler. Shehamayim kashem netila. But that's where you've worked. You've used the ice for whatever reason. You've used it in your fridge. Your fridge broke and you had a block of ice. So back in the day when they had blocks of ice, and they've used it. They've done melacha with it, and then even then it's kosher. Yeah.
If there's a bucket of water and you don't know if it's been used or not.
I think stam we say it's okay.
You can't see it. What happens if you can't see the colour?
Yeah, we say stam. I saw somewhere. Maybe we'll come to it. That stam is going to be okay. You don't have to be cheshish. Okay, ches sifkos and ches. So what was this? Afilu niskaven lishros bekli zev v'nofel sheni. So you intended to put one plate in, you put another plate in, that would be okay. Sorry, that would not be okay. That's the water now is considered to be been used and pasulim. Kiven dal kol ponim niskaven lishros pito b'mayim. Because at the end of the day, even though you didn't intend it in this bucket and you put it in another bucket, at the end of the day you intended to soak your bread in water. But if it just fell by itself into the water, kasherim, that would be okay. And we don't look at it as shofchim, which passes the water. Also too, if a plate falls into the washing up bowl and you wanted to use that water for Netilas Yadayim, even shalom b'mischaven, then even though if it got washed, then that would be okay because it's totally shalom b'mischaven. If clothing fell in and you take it out, lo nifsulu hamayim, that doesn't pass all the water. Kim shalom nischaven, you didn't intend to use this water for cleaning, and therefore it's okay to use for Netilas Yadayim. Or come over pass aval hamayim she mitzeh me'abeged psulim. But if you squeeze out the water, then you obviously worked with the water. That's no good. Okay, continuing the Mishnah Berurah. V'imsinein yayin. So choshev melacha, that's considered the use of the water, and therefore you can't use that water. Shaldei hamayim, that's done because of the water. It's cooled down. V'imhoyat hayayin soine v'nosan soich hamayim rak shleischam mechamayim. If, however, the wine was already cold and you just want to keep it cold, and therefore you put it in a bucket of water or something. Imagine you're on a picnic and you have you've got a cold bottle of wine there, and you put it into a sort of a bottle of water, you put in a bucket of water, and but it's to keep the wine cold. You're not cooling the wine. Then kasherin, you'll be able to use that water for Netilas Yadayim. Or you put fish into it, to the fish stay alive. That keeping wine cold and keeping fish alive is not called a melacha. Because you're not actually working with the water. And even if the fish dies, you're still able to use that water. Okay. Now this is going on the next bit of the Mechaber. If you wash kalim with water, you cannot use that for Netilas Yadayim. Says in Mishnah Berurah, from some things which are stuck onto the keli, you're washing up. Or to take away the bad smell from the kalim, then you cannot use that water for Netilas Yadayim. Kalim, vuadin. If you in lavdafka kalim vuadin imhediach ben yirakas, or if you take water and you're washing vegetables, you can't use that water for Netilas Yadayim. The implication is that if the kalim or the fruit were already clean, then lo mikri melacha klal, that's not considered working with the water, and that would be okay. Dumi the kalim similar to kalim which are clean. If, however, you soak vegetables or fruit in the things, they shouldn't wilt. And that's called melacha, and therefore you would not be able to use. Imagine you soak your barley on Thursday night. My wife does, to make a chillin, and she just soften the barley. So you come down Friday morning, it's been sitting there the whole night. That's considered melacha. You can't use that water for Netilas Yadayim. V'yesh mekilim b'di'eved imhem lachim unukim me'afurus, if they are soft and they're clean. From any dirt, and you just put it in there, not just to keep it clean, as it were. Then, but however, if you do come across water again, then to wash without a bracha. Okay, psulim. So we said that if you have used the water in some form of melacha, they're possible to use for Netilas Yadayim. Says the Mishnah Berurah, v'adin shar melachas, and so too other melachas, kagoin shenosen bohem kelim shenizbaku b'mois hachamo kadesh yiskavtu. Or for example, you've got kelim which burst in the summer months in order to shrink them. You want to sort of solidify it. Or you're using water as a measure of some sort. You've got measures, measuring sort of steps on the side of the keli, 10 milliliters, 20 milliliters. I think that the water goes up to that level. And you put something in to measure it. That's also considered a melacha, and therefore it's possible for Netilas Yadayim. Turning over the page. If you put something in the water which smells, that also forbids the water. The Achronim say no. On the contrary, you put something in the water to make it smell nice, that doesn't puzzle the water. So, what was this going on? So, however, if the kelim were new or were clean and you put them in water, that does not puzzle it. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Sif Katan Yud Gimel, if there was some dirt on it, then there would be a purpose to remove the dust on it, then psulin, then the water would be possible. If you're testing to see if there's a hole in the keli, if water's going to go through, that's not really considered that you're doing melacha with that keli. The water's not actually doing anything. It's not removing dirt or making the vegetables soft or wash or whatever it is. You're just using the water to see if there's a hole in the keli. It's just revealing a fact for you. Not to use the water if possible. Im toval. Now, this is going on? Yeah, if you if the baker used the water as part of his baking sort of procedure, then it's possible. But if he merely dipped his hands in the water and then with the wetness of his hands he put them on the roll, that will be okay. So we said in Tovel, the Tvilas Yadayim lechud le'av melacha, because Tvilas Yadayim is not considered a melacha. V'gam ein nimosim hamayim b'Tvilas Yadayim, and so too water doesn't become disgusting through the Tvilas Yadayim. V'lochein lo yavi k'shofchin, and therefore it's not shofich, and therefore it'll be okay. V'afim lo yadayim netulos, even if your hands were not netulos, lo nitma hamayim b'nigyosan, because they come b'sif yud alef, that because your hands do not become tomei, even if they were tomei previously, they don't matame the water. Hagluskin, what are they? Mine ugos, they're types of cakes. Shela'acha arichosan, after you make them, derech lo tuach pnei mayim. The minig is you put a bit of water on top of them. Pom tov no son b'hamayim. Sometimes you dip them in water. Or pom shetov yodel tuach pnei. Sometimes you take your hands and you do it on them. So if you take the bread and you put it in the water, that passes the water. If, however, you dip your hands in the water and then you put it on the bread, that would be okay. Oishot von mehem, v'zu ein tzorech le'mazu. Okay. Hanisharim bekli, aval be'elu shechofna v'itoch bohen pnei agluska, hari nazim b'yemloch. But if you're putting it on the if you take from your hands and you put it onto the toch bohen pnei agluska, hari nazim b'yemloch, then that would be considered melacha. That is going on. Yud Zayin. Yeah. Hamayim hanisharim lo nazim b'yemloch v'lefichach kasherim bekli. Yeah. But if you do it in your chofnav, you put it in your hands and you scoop up and do like that water in your hands has become possible. In other words, what's remaining in the kli is okay, but what you've scooped up in your hands and you've actually put in on the bread is no good. Okay, Yudches, Hashanachtem mediach, the stam Yadayim ha'iskim be'issa nekiyim ve'ein bohem lichluch. Because stam Yadayim are okay, kari gedoches kelim udachim del el. Umachmas ha'botzik tzorech loemet v'loi choshev v'loi melocha. The little bits of dough that are on your hand, that's not considered a problem. Ve'efshem mishum deyochel ha'asirim gam b'loi hadocha. You can actually take them out without putting water on it. V'taz chelik al din zeh v'chiach da Rambam svirlei to choshev zois melachas gemurah. He says no, if you're trying to get off bits of dough from your hand, that is called the proper melacha. The mediach yodov ben abotzek v'chein posek rashal v'chein iskim ha'shachrinim, and therefore arguing with the mechaber and saying if you're using water to get dough off your hand, that would be a problem. Let's just do Gimel. We've got just a couple of minutes. Maim shelifnei ha'nafach, water that is in front of a blacksmith. Afal pishlin shtan mareim psulin b'bnei shedur shenasa ben melacha. V'haim shekiba ben abarzel. A blacksmith has got a bowl of water and he takes his hot poker and he puts it into the water. That's considered doing melacha with that water. V'shelifnei ha'sapor, and in front of a barber im nishtan mareim psulim v'im lav kasherim. If he's got water there, I know maybe to clean his scissors or something. If it changes appearance, then again it's possible, and if not, it's kosher. Says the Mishnah, v'shelifnei ha'sapor shemediach shom lefa'amim. He's cleaning his equipment. That's maybe I saw. So misofik is considered okay. Yeah, indeed. Yeah. What? What? Oh, the razors. The scissors.
Not the scissors.
The razor.
Oh,
the blade.
The sponge, not the sponge.
I know what you mean. So to put the shmir on the thing on. Either way, they would use the water. So then, if it changes appearance, then it would pass it. Okay, we'll leave it there.